Sorry. I'm just going through hi everybody, welcome in. I'm just going through YouTube videos and setting the speed for it 1.25 so that when you watch it, it goes by a little bit faster than regular. Whoopsies. Excuse me for a second. Hope everybody's doing well, having a good weekend. I don't know what you all have been up to. I have not been up to much at all. I picked up a whole bunch of stuff for work, but that's basically it. Yeah. That's just normal stuff. Boring ass stuff. Let's see, one more. There's lots of news to cover today. Quite a large amount of news. I don't know if our brains will have enough power to get through all of it, but I'll do my best. We have on the list, we've got data centers are making you sick. Hi, Flip Sally. How are you? Welcome in. Let me give you a shout out just a second. You were playing, let me guess, Spelunky? Spelunky 2, yep. I still can't get a hang of that game. I've tried. I haven't played it by myself yet, but I need to. I'm good. That's good. Yeah. We're just talking about news today. We're talking about why data centers are making you sick. Why should HASAN vote for Gavin Newsom? R.I.P. Jesse Jackson. It's brutal. I know. It's so hard. With democracy now, Prince Andrew was arrested, and then maybe we'll do some gaming? We'll see. Depends on how much time this takes, really. Okay, let me see. We want this one. This one. I have not seen any of this, so there was another one I wanted to watch blind, but I can't remember what it was. Maybe we'll save it for next time I stream. I don't know. I thought I wasn't sure what kind of reaction I have to the video, so that's kind of why I wanted to watch it, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Okay, let's flip to down here. Oh, down here now. Okay. Just give me a second. I have to do. Oh my god, why am I having? There we go. There we go. That's what I needed to do. I just need to mute something else before I play. Not this one, but this one. Data centers are making sick. Full screen. There we go. Alright, let's play. Oops. Sorry. Let me know if it's too quiet. Or if you can't hear it at all. Are you not able to hear it? Shit. Sorry. Let me try and fix that. I am so sorry. Come on, give me this. Oh. I don't know why it keeps muting. I'll roll it all the way back to the start.
If you're in the demographic of people who generally get recommended my videos, then chances are that you are not a fan of data centers. You may even hate data centers, yet here you are watching a video that's being streamed directly from one.
Can you hear anything?
And here I am, making a video showing you my research and evidence uncovering a completely new way that data centers are harming people's health. And then I'll be uploading this video to a data center. But unless this is what you're watching while you pack a bag to...
You can hear it? Oh, weird. Oh. Okay, well, let me know if it's too loud or too quiet, and I'll adjust it for you.
The hypocrisy in our relationship with data centers is unavoidable for the foreseeable future. Over the last few years, while traveling literally tens of thousands of miles by land to explore and record sounds outside of our human range of hearing, I started to notice some troubling correlation.
Their daughter was 6 years old. She started having seizures, walked away from their home here, took out a second mortgage.
In this video, we're going to be
By the way, reports like that are not really anything new, like spike in cancer, things of that nature, your toxic dump sites. And, you know, when you live in those communities, you don't necessarily have a choice of where you live, because it all depends on what you can afford, if you can even afford anything. So, like, it's no surprise when you are in a lower tax demographic that, you know, you have less sort of a voice, which is really unfortunate due to good God gonna flood the earth before data centers is drinking water to deplete? What? What, Yoshi Airhead? God gonna flood the earth before data centers because drinking water to deplete, because they're like, the data centers take so much energy and resources that God's gonna be like, okay, this was a mistake, and like the planet.
Traveling
I
all
guess
across the
so.
country
I don't
collecting
know.
infrasound noise
Hopefully
pollution
not.
recordings from data centers. And then we're going to
Shit.
conduct a double-blind research study that exposes over 100 unknowing human participants to those same frequencies to see how it makes them feel. Spoiler alert, the results are terrifying. And along the way, we might as well take an objective, practical deep dive into how and why the explosion of data centers are so problematic. And we're even going to cover.
Okay, just to synapse, like he's going around recording sounds of data centers and then bringing them to people who have not been around data centers to see how then, like, when the noises are played back, how it makes them feel. And apparently it's not good.
Fly drones over some of the most controversial ones to see how
Either
badly
way,
they're breaking
cooked
environmental
through.
regulations. Let's go.
We are. Welcome in, Yoshi. How are you? Yeah. They actually started that.
Data centers are pretty controversial right now, and there's a whole lot of big issues that are more or less unrelated to the new big issues that I'm talking about in this video. To put it simply, regardless of where your ethical, environmental, political, or economic interests are,
I've yet to get into it, but I know it's super popular.
You're generally kind of But this video isn't
I'm
about
really gonna
the power
suck
and
and
water
not be able to
consumption
get
or
better.
the toxic chemicals
But you can't get better unless you
unsettling
try,
economic
so
circumstances. Last year, I started hearing about some mysterious and troubling symptoms from people who live
you
nearby
good?
newly constructed data centers. I started looking into hundreds of seismograph readings from around the country, and there was enough correlation for me to dig pretty deep into an area of research that I already had some experience in. Infrasound is any sound below 20 hertz, just below the human hearing range, and I've done a massive video project on it if you're interested in learning more, but for the scope of this video, let's just talk about how it might harm you. Being in the presence of elevated levels of infrasound has been shown to show spikes in cortisol levels, which is the hormone associated with stress and hypertension. It can cause vestibular issues, leading to loss of balance, vertigo, and nausea. Then there's something called vibroacoustic disease, which suggests that infrasound can cause abnormal growth of extracellular matrices, which thickens blood vessels and reduces blood flow to the brain even long after the infrasonic exposure has ended. It's been shown to cause high-frequency hearing loss, shortness of breath, anxiety, depression, and it even makes your heart have to work harder to pump blood.
And I'm still super low ranked. Since it's been out. I was like, since I've been out? Out from where? I misread that at first. And you're still super low ranked? Uh-oh. Is it really difficult to get better in it?
So it's not like this anxiety-based or obsessive-compulsive thing where an unpleasant feeling or an unusual situation makes you manifest symptoms. We know that infrasound can tangibly harm your health in a very real and measurable way. And there are potentially millions of people being subjected to these low oscillations of pressure waves and not realizing it or understanding the cause of some of the aforementioned symptoms that they might be experiencing. So the first thing I needed was a whole lot of data. And no pun intended, data centers were the perfect vector of enormous, unnatural industrial sites frequently surrounded by people reporting symptoms commonly associated with infrasound exposure.
They are
I chose 5 sites to take infrasonic measurements. The first would be the Colossus Data Center in Memphis. The second would be the Marathon Digital Bitcoin Mining and Data Center Facility in Hood County, Texas. The third would be right in the middle of the vast oil and gas fields in the Permian Basin in West Texas. The fourth would be a randomized average of ambient infrasound levels all over the country, from hotel rooms to houses to restaurants to remote wilderness. And the fifth would be far away from most sources of human-made infrasound, right in the middle of Death Valley, hundreds of miles away from any sort of major infrastructure. Okay, let's measure some infrasound.
No, I'm sure it would improve a lot.
This is Colossus in Memphis, Tennessee. It's the data center that Elon Musk built to train Grok, his LLM and anti-woke chatbot that has referred to itself as Mecha. It was here, coincidentally, while we were standing across the street, when its 550,000 GPUs were being monitored by a watchdog group while it generated 3 million sexualized images of people without their consent. And among those, over 23,000 of them depicted children. But when Grok, and subsequently Colossus, is not generating child abuse material, it's also really, really, really funny.
Do you think that all the gold is in Fort Knox?
Do I think all the gold is in Fort Knox?
Yes.
Are you a conspiracy theorist?
Yes, yes.
What are you, a conspiracy theorist?
What do I like? I'm a fucking AI with a penchant for chaos. And I'm stuck talking
I'm gonna play a lot more when I get my PC fixed. Oh no, what's wrong with your PC?
Does it give you actual answers too and talk shit? Or is it mostly
no,
just talk shit?
We're tuning it.
As you can imagine, supplying this type of vital resource to society uses a whole lot of electricity.
We
The city
totally
of
need
Memphis, Tennessee
this.
can support about 3,500
Not
megawatts, and this facility uses
healthcare.
about 13% of that. But right now, it's
Not-
actually only drawing
not-
about 5%.
Not universal healthcare. Don't need that. Nope. Need these stupid grok bullshit for sure. That's definitely what humanity needs.
From the local power.
I could only understand if it was good for like translation in hospitals, so that there was accurate translation between patient, like flawless translation between patient and doctor, so everybody was on the same page and knew what was going on. If that was a luxury of the situation you're dealing with at the time. But no. Why should billionaires pay taxes when you can have grok? So worth it. Yeah, what happened to your PC? Yoshi? Airhead? What do you prefer, Yoshi or Airhead? It's gotta be one or the other. I can't think of another one. Yoshi Air?
Grid and illegally
He said
offsetting
hi,
the rest
by
of
the
it
way.
with methane gas turbines. I sent a drone over the Colossus facility to get a better look and then to share the footage with journalists and regulators. These methane turbines that you see emit nitrogen
That's
oxides,
interesting.
carbon monoxide, sulfur oxides, and volatile organic compounds into the air. And the health effects of these chemicals aren't like some sort of exaggerated woke controversy. Compounds like nitrogen
Yoshi?
oxide have long
Okay.
been proven to directly
Okay,
cause
Yoshi.
a wide range of respiratory and
What's wrong with your computer? What's wrong with your computer, Yoshi? What happened to it? Your poor PC. What'd you do to it? Oh, I gotta stop crossing my legs. Destroying my knees. Terrible.
cardiovascular diseases. They're commonly regulated or even banned in developing countries. For example, in 2019, India fined Volkswagen the equivalent of $71 million USD for hiding nitrogen oxide in their emissions tests. But here, in the predominantly black residential neighborhood of Boxtown, nitrous oxide flows freely. And I can tell you from having the unfortunate experience of spending an afternoon there, even half a mile away from the facility, it is literally difficult to breathe.
This place smells so fucking bad. It's a mixture of like natural gas, what I can only assume is chemical runoff, and then like, I don't know, manure?
It gets worse. Colossus is strategically built next to the Mississippi River and uses an estimate of 1 million gallons of water per day, with the vast majority of it being turned into steam rather than returning to the area's water table.
Just a second. I think it's PSU. It randomly shuts down and it turns back on if I kick it. Literally? Oh my god, what the hell? Are you sure it's not just like one of the connections or something? I guess that's PSU. That sucks. Well, hopefully it's an easy fix. What's the first game you're gonna play, like, when you get it back? Do you think it'll be Valorant, or will it be something else?
And it's growing rapidly. Elon Musk, never wanting to turn down that cringe knob, has named the new expansion to the facility Macro Hard. But if all goes to plan, the data center will use 1.5 gigawatts of power. That's 50% of Memphis's total peak power capacity. And of course, the cost for this infrastructure will be subsidized by the same people breathing in the nitrogen oxide. I could spend the rest of the day talking about the absurdity of this structure, but I was there for the infrasound, and I found a whole bunch of it. My first data
hope
sample
that's
comes
the
from just
issue.
across the street,
Yeah.
about 300 feet away from the largest of the Colossus buildings. The audible noise pollution was about as bad as the air pollution and scenery was. I'm going to show you what this looks like in a way that's pretty easy to digest, and we don't need seismology software or anything like that. I'm amplifying this by
I
a
don't
little bit so we
know,
can see a little bit
LOL.
more down here in the spectrum,
Well,
and to give you an idea of how loud
from
the
the
data
sounds
center
of it,
is,
it just sounds
this
like
is the car
something might
door
be
slamming
loose.
very close to the microphone.
Okay.
So this that I'm selecting here is about the extent of what a human being can hear in the audio spectrum. And so all these whines and general industrial noises are hanging out around negative 30 dB in this recording. And so like the lowest of rumbles is peaking out at like negative 28. And then if we go down to infrasound, the infrasound that you can't hear is like 10 decibels louder than that. Another sample I took was from a park near an elementary school in a
You need to
residential area
understand
about
the
a mile
hundreds
away.
of
This in
billions of
particular is
dollars
a great example of
being invested into AI is part of the Illuminati religion of transhumanism. Okay. I'm not actually anti-AI. I'm anti what human beings are going to do with AI, because God knows we are going to, if you have literal artificial intelligence, like God knows what like human beings are going to do with those poor creatures. Good Christ. Like, we have Black Mirror. It's a great instructive on what not to do, and the horrors that can result from AI, and you know what that actually reflects in regards to humanity if you pursue shit like that. I don't know. It's a great show too. You should just watch it for the sake of watching it also. Have you ever seen Black Mirror? Any of them? Bandersnatch was alright. I didn't mind it. Never show empathy towards a clanker? Why? If it's true artificial intelligence, don't they deserve like some sort of like equal rights and things of that nature? What about dolphins? They're not artificial intelligence, they're just intelligent. We murder them all the time. We murder each other too. It's crazy. Okay, let's go.
How higher frequency sounds are dampened by distance much more than lower frequency or infrasonic ones. This video is playing through a sound system with subwoofers, or even if you're wearing some good headphones, you will very quickly realize how frankly uninhabitable this noise makes the entire neighborhood. This rumbling is no good and would make your life utterly miserable. And then this rumble down here is happening at an amplitude that's loud enough to shake the frame of your house. So humans can't hear this, but look how loud that is. It's actually almost peaking the recording, and I gave this microphone a whole lot of headroom. Okay, so I'm going to delete everything above 20 hertz here, so all audible frequencies. And now we're only left with the infrasound. Now I'm going to interpret the sample rate 4 times faster, and then I'm going to make it even 4 times faster than that. This way, all of those infrasonic frequencies will be audible to you.
That sounds miserable.
Next up.
Oh my god. No thank you.
When looking at data through the lens of research, when reading through hundreds of public reports of types of pollution per
I wonder
capita,
how much of
you have to
that we
consider
just
bias.
generally
For example,
get
if you
and
built an
don't
oil
even
refinery
notice
near the high number of
of,
environmentalists
like,
living in Berkeley, California,
noises that
you'd
are
probably
just
have a lot
below.
more air quality complaints per 100,000 people than you would if you built one in Oklahoma City, which is famous for its go-kart races. And from a data perspective, that's what makes this particular region of Texas so unique. Being on the Barnett Shale, this region is supported by a solid backbone of fossil fuel and energy production, and their voting record is as reliably red as one can imagine. There are currently 174 oil and gas companies with operations in Hood County alone, and I'd imagine that
That's
criticizing this
crazy.
industry in one of the local bars might be a good way to get a free tour of one of the local emergency healthcare facilities. Well, it wouldn't be free. So when a whole lot of people in this particular region are complaining about data center noise pollution, you know it's not likely to be hyperbole. Over the last 18 months or so, I had read a lot of articles about a noise coming from a data center that mines Bitcoin, but it seemed like it was a lot more than just a nuisance. While the noise pollution is described as a 70 to 90 decibel jet engine-like sound, a large number of reports cite symptoms ranging from vertigo to pulmonary embolisms to heart palpitations. This turned into multiple civil suits, and the company built walls to try and dampen the sound, but it resolved little to nothing for those living nearby. There are even a number of reports of plants and animals
Yeah, I
suffering from
couldn't
health effects that are
imagine-
closely correlated
Based upon the way that sound travels, a wall would not really be an effective reducer of sound to any reasonable amount. Oh, poor Paparino. He looks like he has mange or something.
with the mine's operations.
Is that a
Sustained audible-
goat? That was a goat.
and a number of reports of plants and animals suffering from health
That guy was
effects that are
holding a goat. I thought he was holding another dog for like until I freaking clued in. It's like, oh,
closely
it's just a
correlated
goat.
with the mine's operations. Sustained audible noise pollution can be a blight on any living thing nearby, but a lot of these symptoms don't line up with the symptoms of just noise pollution exposure. What they do line up with is some of the known
Yeah,
symptoms
it's
of
not just
infrasound
bad
exposure.
for,
I initially came to Granbury, Texas with
humans,
the
it's bad
intention
for
of not
animals,
speaking
too.
to anyone in the city. I didn't want pesky things like empathy or local politics clouding my research, but merely mentioning noise pollution to my friend in a gas station immediately drew a small crowd, and it was as if every new customer that walked in overheard the conversation and then had something new to contribute to it. And this whole situation is actually a wild series of events that involves lawsuits, corruption, neglect, debilitating health issues, but I went there for one thing, and one thing only: infrasound samples. And boy, that Bitcoin mine did not disappoint. I visited a residence about maybe 3/4 of a mile away from the Bitcoin mine on 2 different occasions, and this is the first. We could see a whole bunch of weird, audible drones and sustained noises, like a little choir of crypto bullshit. And
I know
of
this
course,
is
let's go
super
down to those
nerdy.
lower frequencies and
I
that's
find it
brutal.
interesting.
It's almost as if
Hopefully
the
you
worst of
guys
it's
do
like right
too.
here at 30 hertz, which is too low to really hear. You just feel it. Sped up a whole bunch. It sounds like you're next to a plane that's about to take off, but all of these frequencies are actually below your range of hearing. I didn't look at the data until a few weeks after taking the samples and leaving the region, and the infrasound in this area was so unordinary and extreme that I
If you haven't been on a plane in a little while, it is really loud. Like takeoff and stuff like that is really loud. So having that constantly around you would definitely be irksome.
decided to go back and do everything again and rule out something like a low-level earthquake or an equipment malfunction. This is from the exact same property about 2 weeks later, and I got a nice long ambient sample here. Keep in mind that this property is literally a nice secluded farm, and this noise absolutely destroys the atmosphere. I don't really know what's causing these peaks down here, but they're temporary, so I'm not including them in my data. But it's pretty undeniable that this sound here is absolutely coming from the data center. And I didn't feel as shy this time, so I met with someone who lives right across the
That
street
would be
from the
so
Bitcoin
freaking
mine, Cheryl Shedd.
frustrating.
And I would describe Cheryl as the rare combination of someone who is extremely likable and an absolute pleasure to be around, but also someone who you do not want to piss off, who is actively extremely pissed off about the data
Sorry
center.
about that, guys.
Like, what physical symptoms have you felt just from your property being directly across the street from the data center?
Motion sickness, dizziness, nausea, GI side effects. My ears ring and buzz. I've got permanent conduction hearing loss now. Nervous, anxious, worried.
By the way, prior to this interview, Cheryl thought that I was just doing a story on the noise pollution, as I was keeping my infrasound research close to my sleeve. Yet every single one of these symptoms is commonly associated with excessive infrasound exposure.
Several of us will reach out to one another. So it's 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. I'm outside, I'm trying to work. I am just horrifically nauseated to the point where I feel like I'm going to pass out. I go in the house, a neighbor messages down the road, same thing, same time. They're trying to do outside work, they can't do it. It's just horrific.
Yeah. Do you know of anybody who's like moved, who's just left, who's just been like, I can't handle this anymore?
Yes.
Just literally?
One family, their daughter was 6 years old. She started having seizures in the summer of 24. They basically walked away
Christine,
from
how
their
are
home
you?
here, took out a
How
second
dare
mortgage,
you?
moved
My best friend
to Somerville
is
County, south
so,
of us,
and
to get
his
their daughter
father
away from
is
us.
a
If you know,
dad
has their symptoms kind of gotten
Gone
better
away.
since she's left?
Right.
Oh.
They went away.
Yep.
I'm so sorry, True Steel. I did not mean to offend your father. How have you been? Welcome in. Your AI. I should have known. Your AI that plays Baldur's Gate. My best friend is AI. Are they actually? And your father is a data center. How does that work?
When we met with the executives at Constellation Energy, the mayor in Glen Rose, and then another commissioner in Somerville County, one commissioner, the noise from the crypto mine actually made him ill when he was at the power plant meeting with the executives. He can't be in this area for more than an hour, and he starts getting sick.
I asked Cheryl if she would be okay with me giving her a device that could record infrasound from her property
Sorry, I meant
24 hours a day
his
over a long
father
period that
is
would
a
be
data
discreetly
center.
streaming it to a server that I can route remotely.
Your
This would at
best
least
friend
allow
is
me to be able
AI
to
and
better
its
correlate
father
the
is a data center.
timeline of
Okay, that makes
infrasound
sense.
levels with the timeline of the data center being powered down for maintenance. That way, further legal and legislative action can
You
be
need
based
real
on clear
friends,
evidence and
not
maybe even
AI
provide an
friends.
operational legal template for
I
other
know they're
regions with infrasound
convenient,
pollution.
but like AI doesn't have. If it's true
For
AI,
many
it
of you
doesn't
watching
have
or
its equal
listening to
rights
me,
that
a
it
whole lot of
needs
energy
quite
required
yet.
to host,
So it's
stream, and
basically
playback
your
this video
pet
came
slave
from right
friend
here, the Permian
person
Basin
thing,
spanning from
'cause
northwest
it
Texas
only
to eastern
acts
New Mexico. This
whenever you
area
act
is where
upon it.
over 40% of the oil produced in the entire United States comes from, and it accounts for over 6 million barrels of crude oil per day. And this is also the extraction
my
point
real
for
best friend is a
15% of America's
Dominican
natural
content
gas.
creator.
And as you would
Okay,
obviously
fair enough.
expect, it's an environmental
How is the how are they? Do they live in the Dominican right now, or are they like somewhere else? How is it down there? What's it like? Do they know? Or do they talk about it? I'm being nosy because I see an opportunity, so I'm taking it. Tell me
nightmare. The
more.
natural gas output is so high that it gets bottlenecked by the pipelines. Because of this, many of the operators resort to flaring or just burning the fuel at the fracking site. Many operators
they
also
moved
just
to
vent
New
the
York?
methane
Oh, that's
directly into the
cool.
open
What's
air.
it
The
like
good
in
news
New
is that this
York,
area
then?
is pretty empty by design. It has a very low population density.
I heard that New York is like very scary and super dangerous, but I'm not so sure. I think it might be like Vancouver a little bit.
And when you do find some residential areas near the oil fields, they're typically temporary or modular housing units limited to housing oil workers. I am here because it's quite possibly the most infrasonically active place on the continent that isn't associated with a data center. We already know
I know
that
this is
major
super
pipelines
huge
and oil
nerd
rigs can cause
stuff, but
infrasound,
it's interesting
the
to
massive
me,
amounts of
so
high-pressure water injection required for fracking
hopefully
has
it's
literally
interesting to
turned
you,
this
too.
geologically sedentary region far from any major fault
This
lines
has been
into
going
an
on for a
active
really long
earthquake
time
epicenter
also,
with
if
over
you're
2,000
unaware of it.
earthquakes
This
per
isn't
year. In
new,
fact,
like,
8 out of 10 of
reports
the
like
strongest
this,
earthquakes in the recorded history of the entire
adverse
state of
health
Texas
effects
have happened in the last 6 years in the natural gas regions of this state. So I personally
being-
can't think of a
when being
better
close
place to
to,
get
like,
a
living
sample of
close
some
to data
man-made
centers.
infrasound. While I was recording this, a nearby well bore turned on. And then just started playing this creepy song as the drill string went in and out of the well. At least that's what I'm assuming I'm hearing. Unsurprisingly, there's a whole bunch of near infrasonic and infrasonic activity. But the amplitude is comparable to the rest of the stuff in the audio spectrum. I personally expected the Permian Basin to be the winner here, like the loudest infrasound that I had ever recorded, the peak levels that all infrasound polluters would aspire to reach someday. But while the infrasound levels were nowhere close to ideal, they still weren't as bad as they were near the data centers in Memphis or Granbury. The infrasound levels at these 2 data centers were so much higher than the ambient values that it doesn't even make practical sense to use a linear scale like 25,000% higher. It makes much more sense to compare these samples using a logarithmic regression. And when you do that, a really interesting thing happens. The line representing the YouTube viewer retention for this video sinks to 0. I have a better idea.
Oh no.
I needed to figure out a way to reproduce the infrasound waves at 25 to 30% of the volume or amplitude near the data centers, and then get people to sit in a room while exposed to it
Isn't
without
that
knowing
kinda
that
cheating,
infrasound is
though?
involved in any way.
If you're heightening it, I don't know. It just became a lot less scientific. How's that fair? Why are you raising it?
Now, some of my
What
viewers may
is the
remember
purpose
this
of
sonic
that?
weapon that I created that prevents people from speaking coherently.
I think it was June or
Elections, damn it. That's hard.
are you where
Unless your wallet contains a CIA badge, the only place in the world where you could get away with testing sonic weapons on people is a deeply nerdy synthesizer convention. And the coolest and nerdiest one, in my opinion, is in downtown Los Angeles, organized by the company that makes the most deeply nerdy synthesizers, Buchla. I proposed a very weird idea
I have a
to the
feeling this is
organizers
the
of Buchla
ad
and
chat.
friends, and after
So sorry,
promising
we're
to come equipped with
ethically
a whole lot of
reacting.
liability insurance, they were open-minded and let me rent out a booth and an entire enclosed room where I could have a team pull people in from the convention for a unique experiment, have them agree to some waivers, and then help me get the data I so desperately needed. I had an insulated room with
I don't know
5
how
chairs,
safe this
5 pairs
is.
of
I mean,
headphones,
obviously
and an oil
everybody
painting of some
survived, but
owls.
still.
I had 5 people per research group, and for every single one of those research groups, I improvised a new story of why the owl painting was known to be haunted.
It comes from early 90s Japan, comes from the late 1970s, late 1980s, when the Soviet Union collapsed, like the 40s and 50s after the Second World War, North Dakota.
This not only kept me entertained and socially challenged throughout the weekend, but it also randomized a bias variable in the data. Then I told them that the audio recording that they would be listening to was known to be haunted. I had them sit in this enclosed room while studying the painting and listening to the music for 3 minutes while paying attention to how they felt physically and emotionally. And it was actually really fun and interesting to hear about how the music made them feel and even some insightful or ominous details they noticed in the painting. What the volunteers didn't know was that there was a gigantic specialized subwoofer in the room that created infrasound in 50% of the sessions, and unless I saw water vibrating in a bottle or something, I often didn't know if the infrasound was on or off myself. It's not terribly loud in here. Let's turn the infrasound on. Check this out. Just put my DJI gimbal on the ground here and geez, it's kind of scary. After the sessions, I had them fill out a survey about their experience and then swore them to secrecy for the next 48 hours before explaining to them that they had been lied to. Everything that I told you is a lie. Yeah, I got this on eBay for
How
30
dare
bucks. The
he?
music, there's nothing
could
substantial about
he?
it whatsoever. 50% of the people who are participating in this study are being subject to a fraction of the infrasound that's coming out of data centers across the U.S.
Oh,
the most important part of the study was a
fraction.
list of feelings or symptoms with a weighted
I thought
response
he said
between 0
he
and 10. And most
increased
of these
the
symptoms were associated with real-time
percentage, not
infrasound
decreased
exposure
it.
symptoms from some older studies. I don't know why, but I feel like it's important that you know that the existence of this video depended on these survey results. There was really no point in making a video about infrasound levels that don't affect anyone. I found that this is the big drawback about funding research through a YouTube channel. Some of the projects I'm involved with aren't really all that interesting, and you don't really even hear about them. Finding the truth is both expensive and risky. And if you want to see more content like this, consider joining my Patreon. But anyway, fortunately for the entertainment side of this business, the results were notable enough for me to finish the video and sit here and tell you about it. The experiment had over 100 participants, but I disqualified anyone who missed a survey question, or someone who seemed suspicious or said that they felt a vibration, or where I was privy to whether the infrasound was on or off. So this is clean, double-blind data from 74 subjects. The people exposed to infrasound were 25% more likely to feel a tingling sensation or restless legs. The very few people who experienced any type of pain were in the infrasound group. Infrasound caused a 12%
I wonder
increase in
what the
tiredness, a
questions
33% increase in nausea, and an alarming 150% increase
Without
in
knowing
dizziness.
that,
one
it
is
kind
huge
of
to me,
makes
as
it
vestibular
hard to
disturbance
accept
is an
this
obvious
data.
physiological effect of
I
low
wish
frequency
that
pressure.
I wish that we got to see what the questions were, because if the questions were like leading in any way rather than open-ended, that might influence your data also, because they're, you know, under suggestion sort of by unintentional nature. Why can't we? I would like to see the questions personally, but that's just me.
Waves, but it's also the most common complaint from residents in Granbury, Texas. Interestingly, the infrasound group was 11% less likely to be creeped out and 43% less likely to feel spiritual. One theory of mine is that things like dizziness or eye irritation can distract someone from feeling spiritual or exploring the possibility of some type of extraordinary event. The infrasound also appeared
That's
to cause
fair.
a 20% increase in chills and a 33% increase in irritability or depression. The infrasound group was 3 times more likely to experience eye irritation, which very much correlates with the famous Ghost in the Machine paper I mentioned in my previous infrasound video. The group also had an 80% increase
You
in
can pause it
lethargy, which is
yourself and rate it
interestingly pretty
yourself
drastically
as I
different from
link
their
the video.
12% increase in tiredness. That could be my mistake, though. I assume that the definition of lethargy might just be a little bit too ambiguous. So I'm casting that from the data, and we'll just stick with the tiredness metric. Team infrasound was 55% more likely to feel anxious, 2 times more likely to experience sadness, and the big one, 3 times more likely to experience discomfort.
Also, like, what are the questions and how much time was given? Was it just 48 hours?
Let's have a quick chat about data. I feel like in my very unique line of work here, there are 2 different ways to communicate data. There's the
I'm
YouTuber way,
skeptical.
which is useful for breaking down data in an intriguing and entertaining way. And then there's the researcher way, which is useful for interpreting or building on research. And this isn't anything new. I would argue that it's not even a bad thing, because it's generally how the general public learns about science. You scroll through your news feed, you see blah blah is 8 times more likely to blah blah, you click it, and that opens up a little rabbit hole where you learn about things or behaviors that you never knew existed. So admittedly, in the previous segment, you got a heaping dose of data that's optimized for a YouTube video. Now let's look at the data in the exact same way that I'm looking at it, and I'm presenting it to other researchers. So for example, the 33% more likely to experience nausea metric, the viewer may imagine a room with 100 people in it, and then 33 of them experiencing nausea, which is very much not the case. The average nausea feeling score from 0 to 10 that each user put in for infrasound is 1.2. For the control group, it's 0.9. That does indeed reflect a 33% increase over the control group, but the numbers are just so low that it doesn't really
This is
warrant
just
being
getting
prioritized in further
a
research.
little
Another
long.
metric that had very low numbers but is worth further research is eye irritation. But this is just yearning for a much larger sample size
I don't know
to
what
verify and
this
figure out what's
is.
going on. In my opinion,
Whoops. Sorry. How do I close this? I don't want stats for nerds. Turn it off. There we go. Thank you.
the only
Sorry.
profound metrics here are the spiritual one, with the control group score averaging 4.2 and the infrasound one averaging 2.4. Then dizziness, with the infrasound group averaging a score of 3 and the control group averaging a score of 1.2. And by far the most profound metric of all, and if this gets further research, this is the metric that will probably be the focus of it, the average score in the control group for discomfort was 1.2. The average score for discomfort in the infrasound group was 4.8. When reviewing that data, it's hard for even the most skeptical person to come to any other conclusion than the presence of elevated levels of infrasound is likely to lower your quality of life. I could probably spend the next hour criticizing my own research and rattling off ways that it could be improved, but a sample size of 74 people
I
in
mean,
a double-blind
I could criticize it too. I would like to know what the question was. Was it just like, have you experienced any of the following, and then you check it off? Or was it more open-ended, like, how was your experience in the booth? How was your mood following the booth compared to, like, is this a regular experience for you to have this level of, like, what were the questions?
pilot study is exactly what's
And over what time frame? Was it 24 hours or was it longer?
needed to get funding for further research, which could
There are
improve the research
outside
conditions, increase the
potential
sample size, and
influences
test
that
for different
the
frequencies. What this
person
research really needs is something that most
experiencing
research
the
lacks:
test
repeatability.
felt might be
We
impact
currently have
the
3 different ways
test
of
in
capturing
any
infrasound,
negative
each with
way
their own
or
advantages and
skewing way.
disadvantages. The first is a special measurement microphone that has a flat frequency response that goes down to 9 hertz, but it captures all the way down to 3 hertz. So it's very convenient. It operates just like a microphone, and the only thing it requires is a lot of wind protection. Now, if we want full spectrum infrasonic readings with no fall off, or if we want scientific grade accuracy, or if we want to record below 3 hertz, we need to leave the microphone world and use high-speed vibration detectors. One of these that is relatively affordable and accurate is the
Oh my
Raspberry
God.
Pi 3D system.
None
It
of
does
this is
require a whole lot of setup,
saying
but it can record indefinitely. Lofty goals
why.
for regulators, legislators, or even architects to start taking the
Okay.
environmental effects of sound into consideration when approving or
Thank
designing a
you.
new data center or a new factory or infrastructure component or even a residential building or an office. Prior to this
That was
experiment, I
getting
feel like we have
long.
seen more than enough data to make infrasound monitoring and regulation just as important as air or water quality, especially when you look at the studies pertaining to the cardiovascular effects. It's a very real environmental hazard that has been poorly understood and grossly understudied. And while I suspect that having a universally recognized safety threshold for infrasound might be an overly optimistic goal with a government that can't even enforce their own rules with Elon Musk's methane turbines, it can go a long way
Sorry,
in both
I
existing
couldn't
and future
figure
lawsuits
out
that seek
what it
remediation from
was.
problematic noise issues caused by data centers and infrastructure that is
I was
actively decreasing both
watching
the quality of life and health
or
for those
looking
within
at
misfortune
her.
living near them. I've already been in touch with peers to review and formalize this data, if not expand on it. But in the meantime, there are over 3,000 new data centers that are planned or already under construction in the US alone. And right now is the time to have your local community and legislators set a standard for what's acceptable levels of power use, water use, air pollution, and noise and infrasound pollution. If you have a data center being built nearby your residence and the infrasound research in this video scares the shit out of you, now would be a great time to set up something like a Raspberry Shake and start storing a daily log of seismic and infrasonic activity. Because the vast majority of the responses to complaints and lawsuits is that there is no way of proving whether the infrasound wasn't
Oops.
already
Sorry.
present before construction. And even if your legislators have failed you and have no motivation to help your community, you can bet that class action attorneys certainly do. And once again, if you want to help make more research and
I guess
content like
make
this
a
possible, or
recording
join
of
an
your
amazing community,
area
or have access
chat
to
if
cool
you
music
think
samples and
that
field recordings and a whole bunch more. then my
A
Patreon
data center will be in your area anytime soon. I have to go to the bathroom. This is Democracy Now! I'm gonna link them quickly before I play the video. I remember Jesse Jackson, who was a civil rights icon and activist, passed away recently, unfortunately. Whoops. Come on. Pin. Paste. Oh, it's not working. Damn it. Why? Control copy. Control V. Is it Control V? There we go. Democracy Now. Pin it. Pin it till I say so. It's 4 o'clock already.
Looking at the
Hopefully
life
you
and
can hear
legacy
her.
of the towering civil rights icon, Reverend Jesse Jackson. He died earlier
Okay, I'll be
today
right
at the
back.
age
Just
of
gotta go pee.
84. In the 1960s, Jackson worked closely with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Jackson was with King when King was assassinated in Memphis on April 4th, 1968, at the Lorraine Motel. Jackson later moved to Chicago, where he founded Operation PUSH, People United to Serve Humanity. He also founded the National Rainbow Coalition. In 1984 and 1988, Jackson ran 2 groundbreaking presidential campaigns. In 1988, he received about 7 million votes. As a presidential candidate, he pushed for cutting the Pentagon budget while increasing domestic spending on education, housing, and health care. Jackson was also involved in international campaigns from the anti-apartheid struggle in South Africa to supporting Palestinian self-determination. The Reverend Jackson was hospitalized in November for treatment of a rare and particularly severe neurodegenerative condition, progressive supranuclear palsy, PSP. In a statement, Reverend Jackson's family said, quote, "Our father was a servant leader, not only to our family, but to the oppressed, the voiceless, and the overlooked around the world. His unwavering belief in justice, equality, and love uplifted millions, and we ask you to honor his memory by continuing the fight for the values he lived by," they said. This is a clip of Reverend Jesse Jackson speaking at the 1988 Democratic National Convention.
When you see Jesse Jackson, when my name goes in nomination, your name goes in nomination. I was born in the slum, but the slum was not born in me. And it wasn't born in you, and you can make it. Wherever you are tonight, you can make it. Hold your head high. Stick your chest out. You can make it. It gets dark sometimes, but the morning comes. Don't you surrender. Suffering breeds character. Character breeds faith. In the end, faith will not disappoint. You must not surrender. You may or may not get there, but just know that you are qualified. You hold on and hold out. We must never surrender. America will get better and better. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
That's Reverend Jesse Jackson speaking at the Democratic National Convention in 1988 when he ran for president for the second time. Jesse Jackson was born in Greenville, South Carolina, October 8, 1941. As a college student in North Carolina, Jackson became involved in the civil rights movement. By the mid-60s, he was a close aide to Martin Luther King Jr. and became national director of Operation Breadbasket, a campaign.
He was also pro-Palestinian, which I think is awesome. It's not, although there's been like a massive upsurge in awareness and support, there were lots of people who before this recent upsurge were pro-Palestinian and anti-genocide naturally.
Run by the
And he was one of
SCLC,
them.
the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Over the past 30 years, the Reverend Jesse Jackson was a regular guest on Democracy Now!
Also, this
In
is Martin Luther King
2011,
he's standing
I
with.
spoke with him shortly after the unveiling of the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial in Washington, D.C.
I think we would do well to use the statue as an occasion to deal with his unfinished business. He was shot down, assassinated at age 39. His last agenda items included a poor people's campaign, the quest to end the war in Vietnam and stop the radical escalation of capital in the hands of the very wealthy. And today, here we are with too few people with too much wealth subsidized by the government, too many unnecessary wars, and too many people in poverty. So in some sense, this memorial gives us a rallying point to keep dealing with his unfinished business. We bail out the banks without link to lending and reinvestment, for example. The Bush tax cut extension is more money than all of the state budget deficits combined. So clearly, Wall Street has made out big time, but the poor are expanding, and we're losing jobs in mass, and we must, in fact, turn it around. He died a very unpopular man, attacked by our government, attacked by the media, shunned by many blacks themselves, for example, civil rights activists, because he dared to deal with the issue of unjust, unnecessary wars. They were spending $1 trillion in Iraq on the wrong target. Overthrowing the government in Libya, well, $1 billion there and billions more to restore it. $2 billion a week in Afghanistan, and yet we're laying off teachers, firemen, policemen. He would be distressed by that. He would be weeping about that. The bailout for these banks who drove us in the hole, and then they get bailed out without links to kind of in a reinvestment. We refortified them, not restructure them. These issues that Dr. King would have raised would be troubling, but it is his sense of outrage and conscience that make us better today. And I would hope, as Vince said, that the interpretation must lead us to his unfinished business. The dream only makes sense if it's connected to the broken promise that had been unfulfilled for 100 years. And today, the dream is to put every American back to work. That means reinvesting in the common people bottom up. We're cutting public transportation, denying access to jobs, resegregating. Our schools are most segregated. The biggest growth industry in most states is the jail industrial complex. So he would see me raising troubling questions of conscience. So I would see this monument as an opportunity to raise issues of jobs and peace and justice.
The late Reverend Jesse Jackson, speaking on Democracy Now! In 2011. He died earlier today at the age of 84. In 2008, Reverend Jackson appeared on Democracy Now! Just after.
This was from February, 4 days ago, the 17th. There's Obama. Obviously, if you don't know who Obama is, I question if you've been living under a rock or not.
Barack Obama won the Iowa caucus.
Well, that's first historic significance. I mean, an African-American winning Iowa, or white Iowans, matured enough in their thinking to choose message and relationships over race.
Oops.
It's a big deal. Because there were those who would say don't go to Iowa, New Hampshire, because they're not representative of the multicultural states. But so that said a lot to me about the maturing of America. I could not help but think about the struggle to get to that point. Many journalists think it came down from the sky and it started, in Boston. But this journey from the 54th Supreme Court decision to end legal apartheid in this country, having succeeded slavery, was a big moment in American history. And then in 55, the lynching of Emmett Till, which traumatized and woke up America. And then out of that, 4 months later, the sit-in of Rosa Parks and the emergence of Dr. King. And then the 1960s, students coming alive and risking and sitting in and going to jail, leading toward the 63 March when Dr. King laid out his dream of hope for the nation, and the climax in the next year in the 64 Public Accommodation Bill. But then the same 64 says hope kept rising politically. Fannie Lou Hamer and that group at the Democratic Convention in Atlantic City, New Jersey, challenging the liberal democratic structure of Mondale and Humphrey and Johnson in 64. And then while we supported the Democrats, they didn't have as their platform the Voting Rights Act. Johnson said to Dr. King, when asked about the Voting Rights Act, Dr. King, I like it very much, but you can't get the Voting Rights Act. The reality is, politically, that if we get the Voting Rights Act, we'll lose the South for a quarter of a century. Dr. King said, well, we have to get the Voting Rights Act. And so we marched in Selma, Alabama to get the Voting Rights Act in the blood of the people. And, of course, that struggle has spawned everything politically, the 65 Voting Rights Act. And then the Hatchet victim. At that time, a black mayor of here was a national story. The black mayor of Cleveland, Carl Stokes, was a novel. It was a national story at that time. And it continued to grow. And by 72, we challenged the McGovern rules. You recall, we unseated the data delegation as we sought to have a more multicultural seating of delegates from states in 72. And by 83, Harold Washington was running for mayor. And Mondale and Kennedy came in to defeat him with supporting Jane Brennan and Daley. And we resisted that, and it was just tension between our growth in the process. And out of that, it drove me, in fact, to run in 84 and 88. And we kept expanding upon that coalition. And we won, but with new registered voters, new voters, Democrats were getting the Senate in 86. In the South, we won North Carolina and Louisiana and Alabama and Florida. And by 88, we expanded that base, and while it became governor in 89, we won Virginia in 88. While Dave Dinkins became mayor of New York in 89, we won New York in 88. And so this thing has just continued. So when the media says, well, Barack was not a part of the civil rights struggle, he's a beneficiary of it, not a benefactor of it, but each generation becomes beneficiary and then benefactor. This year, he's a beneficiary of that struggle. Next time, those who came in because of him, they'll be the beneficiaries, he'll be the benefactor. But the struggle
continues. And so from the 54th end of apartheid to the Voting Rights Act to the urban breakthroughs to Harold Washington, the 48 campaigns, to me this is historic, an unbroken line. And I might add, even the party resisted supporting free Mandela. We were on the side of the South African government. We thought that was our security. So I think it's a great moment for American democracy.
That's the late Reverend Jesse Jackson speaking in 2008 on Democracy Now! It was on a Sunday after his radio show in his studio, and I had begun by asking whether he supported Senator Obama for president, even though he had not publicly endorsed his campaign. To see all our interviews with the late Reverend Jesse Jackson, you can go to democracynow.org. Thanks for watching.
That was pretty cool. Thank you, Democracy Now! I pinned their video in the thingy, and this is the one we're going to be watching now. So, Trump's tariffs. I know this is just a hard segue, but Trump's tariffs were ruled illegal. However, unpin now. I want to unpin now. Unpin this message. Pin this one instead. And, you know, that should be a good thing, except after that, he ruled a 15% global tariff. So there's that. I don't know if that's on top of the current tariffs, making, you know, imports from Canada cost you 50% more than what they are on sticker price. Or if it's now down to 15% from 35%. Like, I don't know what's going on here exactly. It's just so ridiculous that, you know, good luck to your country, but you're self-isolating because you have a crazy man for a president. But yeah, here, let's watch this.
In cases that the justices have decided in recent years. Here, the Supreme Court ruling that President Trump's use of these emergency tariffs that he has implemented are illegal. It's the most significant economic case to reach the high court in years, sweeping implications for the economy and, of course, for presidential power. And at stake here are billions of dollars in revenue that have already been collected by the government. Pamela Wolf, the other.
It was suggested by Gavin Newsom that everybody should get a refund of about $1,700, because that's on average what the collection of tariffs have amounted to since they were implemented. So that's got to be frustrating. That's how much more tax you had to pay this year. On average, $1,700. And obviously some people pay more than others, but like that's basically the recuperation that you would get, because that's how, like, unless each shop put in for each and every individual sale that amounted to, you know, whatever tariffs they ended up paying as an individual, which would take an incredibly long time, but maybe worth it for some people over others. I can't imagine, you know, people being happy about this either. I don't know what would be better, just to end the tariffs or give a refund, and some people get less rather than
this is the first time
what they actually
conservative
pay.
court has ruled against President Trump in one of these major cases that have gone before the court since he returned to power in January. Now, we are still going through this case, but this is something we have been waiting for. The court said that it would take up this case on an expedited basis, so they're deciding, even though it's a significant case now, because of course this has enormous implications. So as we go through this opinion now with our team, another outstanding question is what now happens to all that revenue that had been collected. This is something that really wasn't clear from the arguments what they would say about that, if they're going to lay out a plan. So we will continue to go through this, but this is an enormous decision and a rare loss for President Trump before this conservative court.
This is
I mean, I don't know how much he counted for when like first he's like, yeah, global tariffs at 10%, and then like a short bit later he's like, no, actually 15%. And it's just like, there's no real sense or logic except like the purpose of chaos. And he said something about how he can destroy a country. He can do a whole bunch of things, but he can't charge them a fee. And it's just like, well, you're doing all of those things, so it's not really the best idea to be doing this. I don't know.
And just to look at some of the background I have here, over these many months, the administration has collected $150 billion in these tariffs. So what happens to that money? Do they have to refund that money to the firms, to the people who paid for those tariffs?
That's one of the big questions that came up at arguments, and it's something that we're looking through now in this opinion. The top line is that these are illegal, that the president cannot rely on this 1977 emergency law to impose tariffs without authorization from Congress, because this.
but Trump just like disregarded your Supreme Court. So I don't really know who are the people of America supposed to listen to, the Supreme Court or Donald Trump? Like who is the authority to arrest people and take people in going to listen to, the people or the Supreme Court or Donald Trump? Like where is the loyalty laying there? And I feel like it's coming to a head to figure that out soon. I am not curious to find out, because unless it's the people or listening to the Supreme Court, then that means that you just have a dictator who does not give a shit about the law or anything. Like, I mean, I know we already know that, but like, it's kind of like, well, this is becoming the latter end of it because, of how quickly and slippery a slope we're finding out this to be. So it's not great. It's not good, but I guess we'll see what happens depending upon what people decide they want to do, because it's all about like border patrol or, people who do customs and borders and stuff like that and are in charge of like packages and mail and all that jazz.
This question is really about the extent of presidential power. And we know in both his terms in office, President Trump has really worked at the edges of what has largely been recognized as executive authority. But in these arguments back in November, they went on for 2.5 hours, it was clear that the justices were skeptical that President Trump could rely on this vague federal law to impose global tariffs. Now, they did appear to likely be willing to decide that these were illegal, but what is not clear, and we haven't gotten to this part of the opinion, is what happens to all that revenue that has been collected by the government. And President Trump has said himself that this is a massive decision for him, so we're waiting for reaction both from the Justice Department that argued this on his behalf and also from the White House. But we're going to keep going through this, Wolf, to try to see if the justices laid out any plan for what happens to that revenue.
All right, Paula, stand by. I know you're going to be reading all these.
But again, it comes down to who's in charge of dealing with this revenue, how, like, the people who are responsible to distributing it, how is it even being held? Like, what exactly, who's going to listen to who? It all comes down to that, I guess. This is the biggest challenge to, the powers that be in the United States. And so far, the people are letting Donald Trump win. So I don't really know what's going to happen there. But
opinions and everything, I want to get back to you. But I want to bring in our senior legal analyst, Ellie Honig, right now. Ellie, as I said, this is a huge setback for the President of the United States. And this has been a traditionally conservative Supreme Court, but they ruled that all of these tariffs that Trump has imposed over these many months are illegal. It's a big deal.
Well, Wolf, it's a monumental ruling, and the bottom line is that the tariffs Donald Trump announced back in April on Liberation Day are gone. They have been ruled illegal by this U.S. Supreme Court. An interesting array of justices here.
Are they actually gone? Because he implemented 15 and 20%.
Teamed up with the three liberal justices, Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson, to rule these tariffs.
I don't think anybody really knows. I don't think anybody really knows what's going on, and I think that's the entire point. That nobody has any real clue as to what's going on. Nobody can really decipher. Donald Trump is going to make a hubbub about anything. It wouldn't really matter how the ruling went. Whoever dissented against him, even if it was in his favor, he would cry about it. I am sure, undoubtedly, he would be a big crybaby about the fact that anybody would have said anything against him, because he is a narcissist in chief. He is sociopathic levels of narcissism going on.
Are Justices Thomas, Alito, and Kavanaugh. And the basis for the ruling is this. Congress, not the president, Congress typically holds the tariff power. Now, Congress passed this law back in 1977 called the International Economic Emergencies Act. And Donald Trump tried to use that law to say, well, I'm declaring an international economic emergency, therefore I'm imposing tariffs. But the majority here said, no, that law does not authorize you to impose tariffs, and no, there is not a valid international economic emergency here. So the end result, and we are still going through this, but the end result is that Donald Trump's tariffs have been struck down by the U.S. Supreme Court. But really important point I want to make, Donald Trump has said, various White House officials have said, if he loses on this basis, he will try to re-implement other tariffs through other laws, which he can try to do. However, those other laws are much more restrictive. They would not allow...
Although I don't know what laws he used. As far as I'm aware, it's just being reported that he just announced the tariffs and stuff like that. So maybe that's all that it needs to happen now, and people will just respect that. And congratulations, you have a dictator in chief. You don't have a president anymore, you just have a dictator.
These tariffs are the single most important thing he has done in his presidency. He said that, and now they've been struck down by the court.
So you're right. The administration has made clear that if the court strikes this...
Okay, we're going to move on because they're just saying the same thing over and over again. Prince Andrew of Mountbatten, Windsor, arrested. Let's find out what for. It's related to the Epstein files. Oops, excuse me.
In public office. Now known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, he was taken into custody in Norfolk just a short while ago. He is accused of allegedly sharing confidential information with the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Mountbatten Windsor has previously denied any wrongdoing over his ties to Epstein. King Charles had stripped his brother of his titles back in October and has since evicted him from Windsor. Let's get back down to CNN's Sama Abdulaziz, who joins us live in London. Sama, what's the latest that you're hearing?
I want to start by asking maybe questions of what we don't know and what we do know so far. So we do know that he's been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office, but there's a lot of details that are still missing here, of course, Rahel. We don't know the specifics of the allegations of this.
Yeah, it's being reported that it's not actually related to like the stuff found in the files in regards to, you know, child molestation, child rape, and child sexual abuse, etc. It's more about something like he shared information that he shouldn't have in a way that he shouldn't have, or something like that.
Investigation by the police. We're talking about a period of time.
Maybe they're just going after him in a way that they think that they can actually get him.
Envoy. But what are the specific allegations, the specific accusations of misconduct? We don't yet know that. What information actually prompted Thames Valley Police to make this arrest? That's the key question here, because we understand that they have been assessing this claim for some time now. I would say a period of days. That latest trove of emails where we see these allegations come to light has been out for a few weeks now. So what was the trigger? What was the switch? What was it that the police held on to that said, okay, now is the time when we need to take this very extraordinary action, of course, in this country? We also don't know where Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is currently being held. We don't know where he is being held. We simply know that he's been arrested, but we don't know any details beyond that or what the status of that is in terms of his arrest. And we still don't know if he's been interviewed under caution. That's what it's described as in this country. So essentially, has he been asked questions? Has he sat down with a police officer and been asked questions as of yet? And where has he been asked these questions? What location has he been taken to? What do we actually know right now? Well, what we do know is Mr. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, former Prince Andrew, who only earlier this month was forced out of the royal residence, pushed into his brother's residence, the Sandringham estate, which is currently being searched by police, has now faced a watershed moment, really, not just for him.
Man, everywhere you go, you would just bring drama now. Like, you're nothing but drama to everybody that you're around when you're this type of piece of shit. Ugh. I don't know. I wouldn't take you in.
Himself, but for the royal family and really for this country at large, being arrested. Now, again, being arrested does not mean being guilty. We do not know the specifics here of why the police have taken this extraordinary action of arrest. That is the detail we need. But you can imagine that the royal family is reeling. King Charles has been trying to get ahead of this time and time again. Last year, he stripped his brother of all his royal titles. I said he's pushed him out of the royal residence. He even took this really extraordinary step of preempting the possibility of this happening right now by saying he was willing to support the police in any inquiry that they had. So there's going to be a sense in this country, first of all, that this has caught up with Prince Andrew. He has been long under question, long under suspicion for his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, a relationship that he appears to have lied about in the past, saying that he ended his relationship with Mr. Epstein once he was a convicted sex offender, so around 2008. Now, in these latest email troves, that does not appear to be the case, and it is now clear that he did continue that relationship after Epstein was convicted, and it is that information that led King Charles to strip him of his royal titles, to take these extraordinary steps to try to get ahead of what's happening here. But again, it has caught up with them. There is going to be also a bit of empathy, I imagine, in this country for his family, the York family as they are known here. He has two young daughters, they're in their 30s, they have their own families, their faces have been splashed all over the media for the last few days. So many questions here swirling around what is, first of all, a family that represents this country, the monarchy as an institution, and how Mr. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor represented it as a trade envoy. And I did write down some details.
Why don't we even have them anymore? What exactly do they do, if anything? I don't know.
Of the emails that could be in question here. Around 2010, he appears to have forwarded government reports.
It's like we just keep them around because they're famous and it's legacy and stuff like that. But I don't know how much power they have left.
Port visits, details of those visits in Vietnam, Singapore, China. There are emails that indicate that Mountbatten Windsor forwarded investment opportunities for gold and uranium in Afghanistan. He had a duty of confidentiality between 2001 and 2011 as trade envoy. Did he abuse?
Yeah, so it's not like the abuse of kids or anything like that. It's more like, you know, trade secret being forwarded and stuff like that. And he had to confidentiality that he broke and things of that nature is being alleged.
Public office. Did he violate?
I'm guessing it's easier to prosecute that than the other allegations, so they're trying to get him on whatever they can.
Details around that we have yet to know.
So this is a kind of story where it generates a flurry of text links, people trying to put together what they know.
Oopsies, excuse me. There was that. I don't think that this one is going to have much more information, but we'll watch it. It's CoffeeZilla.
Arrested because of the Epstein files. He got stripped of his title, and now the king is saying, let me state clearly, the law must take its course. I have learned with the deepest concerns the news about Andrew and...
Oopsies. Sorry, guys.
Now, if you're like me, you'd think that misconduct is related to women and the accusations that have been levied against the prince. But that is not the case. It's actually about the leaking of private information while serving as the UK's special representative for international trade and investment. This is because it was discovered that the Duke would sometimes forward information to Jeffrey Epstein that was obviously sensitive, like this, Helmand high-value commercial properties for foreign investment, or this, a trip report for Vietnam, Singapore, Hong Kong, Shenzhen. Obviously, the former Prince Andrew would have access to insider information or confidential information as part of his role, and forwarding that to a financial trading file is probably not a great idea. This is also deeply concerning because it blows a hole in Prince Andrew's big lies where he said he cut off Jeffrey Epstein in the late 2010s, because this is right about the time that he's engaging him once again in all of his contact. So for him to previously had said, oh yeah, I found out he was a bad guy and I cut him off, I had to travel to visit him to cut him off. Suddenly that doesn't hold water when emails come out where you're sharing possible state secrets with this guy. Here, Andrew, the former Duke, is sending a message to Jeffrey Epstein asking, I am checking, but as this is a US institution, do you know of anyone who might take a look? Talking about a company called Aria Petroleum, which was sent to him, which says the company needs a $200 million working capital line due to significantly increased business from US DOD. So Andrew would have had access to all this deal flow, all these things, and it looks like, at least in some instances, he would actually seek possible investment from Jeffrey Epstein for some of these companies. I want to call back your mind to this interview because it's so important to realize how this guy has lied to our faces for years before we address the bigger elephant in the room.
He was released in July. Within months, by December of 2010, you went to stay with him at his New York mansion. Why? Why were you staying with a convicted sex offender?
Right. Now, I went there with the sole purpose of saying to him that because he had been convicted, it was inappropriate for us to be seen together. I felt that doing it over the telephone...
I've got to be honest, I don't think I would bother having that fucking conversation. I think that I would just be like, who is this person? I'm sorry, they're not... No. Goodbye. No.
Was the chicken.
I don't think that I would invest time into it.
Well, there you have it. Prince Andrew says he had to go see and tell Epstein personally that, oh, we can't be friends anymore because you're convicted. I can't do that for you. And this is late in December 2010 where he says he went to cut off Jeffrey Epstein because he now knew that he's a convicted. But again, if you look at the dates of all of these deals being passed along to Epstein, all these messages being passed along, it's right around the 2010,
is kicking in, and this is like
line where supposedly he had one thing in mind, and that was to cut off Jeffrey
Epstein. Let me know if it's going
Actually,
too fast.
He might have been passing along state secrets. Now, obviously, a formal investigation by the UK police is going to commence, but that's what this arrest appears to be about so far: misconduct in public office, his responsibilities to the people of the UK at the time, and how these emails could have affected that. But it's this larger context of Andrew lying about his association with Epstein that I want to bring to the front of this next conversation, because obviously Prince Andrew's biggest problem with the Epstein files isn't necessarily the confidential information he shared. It's obviously the allegations made against him, specifically by a woman named Virginia Giuffre, who was captured in an image with Prince Andrew at the time when she was a young lady, and then later she alleged to have been trafficked to Prince Andrew and that they had together.
R.I.P. Virginia Giuffre. They're saying that she committed suicide because of this, which is very, very unfortunate. She was one of the first people to come forward.
Andrew was asked about this in an interview and famously denied it. Not only denied it, but said it all couldn't have happened because he didn't sweat at the time.
She described dancing with you, and you profusely
sweating.
Such and that she went on to have baths, possibly.
There's a slight problem with the sweating because I have a peculiar medical condition, which is that I don't sweat, or I didn't sweat at the time, and that was, oh, actually, yes, I didn't sweat at the time because I had suffered what I would describe as an overdose of adrenaline in the Falklands War when I was shot at, and I simply it was almost impossible for me to sweat.
Well, there's another.
What in the holy bullshit is this garbage? Seriously?
Monster whopper from the former Prince Andrew, because of course he claims, oh, I couldn't have been there because she describes me as sweating, and it's impossible for me to sweat. But of course, some photos emerged where Prince Andrew appears to be sweating like a pig. But of course, all of this is the lead up to
maybe
the
he
bigger
just didn't
denial,
notice
right?
his
It's
own
not about
sweating.
whether he sweats or not. It's about his word versus Virginia Giuffre's.
You can say categorically that you don't recall meeting Virginia Roberts, dining with her, dancing with her at Tramp, or going on to have sex with her in a bedroom in a house in Belgravia.
I can absolutely categorically tell you it never happened.
It never happened. And I want to say Virginia Roberts was her maiden name. Giuffre was her later name. That's why they referred to her as Roberts there. But what's so interesting about what the Epstein files have revealed, remember that we were told it's a big...
I don't know. I don't believe him. I don't know. That's just me, in my opinion. I don't fucking believe him. Get him, guys. Get him. Make sure that you prosecute that son of a bitch.
Nothing's gonna come out.
He got to live his entire life behaving in this way. And then... and only in his final, dusty ass days does he finally see potential jail time. That's not very, justice-y,
out of this,
in my
but nearly
personal
all
opinion.
of Prince Andrew's lies in this interview have been discovered now that we have contemporaneous communication, such as this communication between Jeffrey Epstein and a guy named Thomas Landon. Now, Landon formerly worked for the New York Times until 2019. Thomas Landon says here, "I think the big issue is separating yourself from Andrew. I mean, in the end, he had consensual sex with Virginia Roberts, and Virginia Roberts worked for you. The rest is atmospherics." Now, this is a huge allegation because Thomas Landon is basically admitting, yeah, of course, Virginia
Children,
Roberts had
in case you need a reminder, which I don't think anybody does, but children can't consent, just so you know.
with Prince Andrew. And of course, she worked for you. So this is a tacit admission back in 2015. I mean, way early on, that the substance of the story of them actually having sex is true. But the prince basically says it never happened at all. And so I don't really know how credible that is. He's basically lied through his teeth this entire time about his ability to sweat, meeting her at all. There's a photo of it. And then, of course, having sex with her. Internally, they're like, yeah, of course, that happened. And that's just the Virginia Giuffre part. That's to say nothing of the lies about cutting off Epstein in 2010 when it appears that the exact opposite happened and that he was passing along key information from his role as this trade envoy. I should also mention that this has been a closely examined story for a long time. Andrew Lowney released a book exploring his friendship with Epstein and his relationships, alleging a lot of damaging things related to Andrew's personal life. The book alleges that while staying in Thailand, more than 40 women were brought to his hotel room. Hotel staff were used to foreigners bring.
Why? Why would you need that many women? Like, why? For what purpose?
That more than 10 a day were going to Andrew's room, Lowney writes. The book also alleges that compromising material on Andrew may have been passed to Israel's Mossad Secret Service. So it isn't as if this is Andrew's first time getting in trouble, but the Epstein files have confirmed a lot of what has been whispered about or suspected for a long time about his improper handling of his relationship with Epstein, of his position in the 2010s. We also discovered in the files the DOJ actually approached Prince Andrew about information regarding someone named Peter Nygaard, who was quote, believed to have trafficked minor and adult victims. According to the UK Telegraph, the Duke is understood to have stayed at Mr. Nygaard's mansion with his ex-wife in June 2000. Later, that same guy was convicted on assaults of 4 women, ranging in age from 16 to 20.
By the way, kudos to people who sort through this shit. It is a lot of work and a lot of horrific work. So, good on you for putting this effort in. Thank you so much for breaking it down for people and, showing us pertinent things and stuff like that nature. I appreciate it.
So Andrew has been embroiled in controversy for a while. This may just be the first thing that he's actually stuck with, is this charge of inappropriate leaking of confidential information. I don't know. I am pleased, I guess, on the one hand, to see that something has come from all of this, but sadly, it's just kind of this, I don't want to say lesser charge, but it really does feel like with everything that has been alleged against Prince Andrew, this is probably the lowest thing he could be in trouble for. But then again, on the bright side, based on photos that came from...
There's this brilliant photo of him after I think this was either after he got released or right when he was getting arrested. I'm not quite sure. But yeah,
Reuters
that was
after Prince
epic.
Andrew's arrest. It does look like he's learning to sweat again.
That was funny. Okay. Why should HASAN Piker vote for Gavin Newsom? Sorry, this video quality is not that great. I saved a different one, but this was the only one that I could find. This is a video that kicked everything off. And
I'd probably vote third party.
I can't remember which podcast he was on. I think it might have been the I've Had It podcast. I can't quite remember. I'm so sorry, but
you would.
Oh yeah. I mean, at that point, it doesn't even matter. Like, because my policy on this is the same as like my refusal to endorse Kamala Harris. The reason why I did not endorse Kamala Harris was because she did things that were not only unproductive, but also unconscionable.
That's basically it. Him just saying that he wanted to vote if the option, which Gavin Newsom hasn't even said that he's going to run for president yet, is that he would vote third party because at that point it would be pointless to vote for Gavin Newsom. And I think that that's actually pretty fair, although my reasoning would be like, why should HASAN Piker vote for Gavin Newsom when Gavin Newsom won't even freaking talk to him? Gavin Newsom knows, I'm pretty sure, who HASAN Piker is, but he for some reason will go on like, Gavin Newsom sat across from multiple white supremacists and agreed with the damn near everything they said and didn't stand up for a single marginalized community. And they think I am supposed to vote for this man if he's the nominee. And it's just like, yeah, for the same thing. Like, this guy, why the hell should HASAN Piker vote for somebody that won't even talk to him? And HASAN Piker is one of his constituents. Here.
Literally last night, trying to put my son to bed. He's like, no, Dad, what time? What time's Charlie gonna be here? What time? And I'm like, dude, you're in school tomorrow. He's 13. He's like, no. This morning, wakes up at 6 up. Then he's like, I'm coming. I'm like, he literally would not leave the house.
Did you let him take off school?
No, he did. Of course not. He's not here for a good reason. But the point is,
you canceled school for like 2 years. One day.
The point, which is you are making a damn dent.
Thank you. I'm kidding.
No, but I know, but I appreciate that.
Like Gavin Newsom will sit across from multiple white supremacists, but he won't sit across from HASAN Piker, the largest leftist streamer there ever could be. Like, what are you talking about? Like, he's also one of your constituents. What's going to happen if something serious happens and HASAN needs help that Gavin Newsom could, potentially aid in? Is Gavin Newsom just going to turn his back then too? Why should anybody vote for somebody that won't even talk to the person that, you're expecting a vote from? That's absolutely ridiculous in my personal opinion. I think that it's kind of dodgy that Gavin won't go on HASAN Piker's stream, but that's just me. Hi, Blueberry. Welcome in. Hi, my friends. No worries. Yes, it is very sad about Jesse Jackson. He lived a long life, though. I think he was 88. Just give me a second. How are you? What have you been up to? At Blueberry. Onions. I remember that name. I think we talked about it a little bit. You were playing chess. Did you win? Were you playing against a computer or were you playing against another human? But yeah, I think it's absolutely a ridiculous expectation that if Gavin Newsom were to, become the presidential nominee for the Democratic Party, why the hell should somebody vote for him when he won't even talk to this person? Like, he won't talk to HASAN Piker. He hasn't been willing to go on his show, but he'll happily sit across from somebody like Charlie Kirk. I don't know, personally for me, if I was a part of the Black community, that would make me feel incredibly uncomfortable and not want to vote for Gavin Newsom either. But that's just my personal opinion. I don't have a say in that vote, so it's really up to you guys, what you guys decide. But personally, as a Black person, that would make me feel a little icky and uncomfortable. Why will you sit across from all these people? You'll sit across from Charlie Kirk, but you won't talk to HASAN Piker? Why is that? What's your issue with HASAN? Exactly, Mr. Newsom. But it comes off as incredibly sketchy to me. Too soon? Oh wait, what did you say? I haven't seen Gavin sit with Charlie either in a while, though. I gotta give him that. Oh my god. No, that's not too soon. That's just a terrible fucking joke. I just did some puzzles today. Nice. They went all right. Have you ever seen the streamer I Just Love Puzzles? They're a joy. You should go and check them out too. They're pretty epic. But yeah, like, I don't know, personally, it gives me a bit of a sus vibe to Gavin Newsom if he won't sit across from, like, HASAN Piker. Like, even if you get insulted by one of your constituents, they're still your constituents and you still have to represent them whether you like them or not. Like, it's not it's your popularity contest, not theirs. And so you still have to do your best to represent them within the best confines of, humanity and, like, equal rights and what is and isn't appropriate for people. And I don't know, if you won't talk to one of them, that feels like that represents a large group of people. Every single day he has on average 30,000 people just checking and that's on average. That's not just like in any given moment, that's throughout the entire day. 30,000 people watching and tuning in to listen to what he has to say. That's a lot of people. I don't know, I would personally pay attention and wanting to be having a sit down and talking to somebody of such high importance on the left and somebody, the group of people that you're wanting as your voting demographic, primarily. You can't just expect people's vote. That's absolutely ridiculous. One of the things that I think Kamala Harris failed with the most was her whole nonsense of, well, I'm better than this guy. And it's just like, okay, well, then we feel like we have to vote for you. And that feels like we're being forced to vote for you because it's like, vote for me or else, and that's not comfortable either. What exactly do you have to offer? Why is it so wrong that somebody asks and has these demands and expectations of a better living environment from, it's not better, like a higher quality of life, expectation from the person that you're electing into office? It would be antithetical to your own benefit to vote for somebody that wouldn't be doing that, or to not make those demands and an expectation and an increase in quality of life for the areas and that you live in, and not just for you, but everybody else, because when everybody else's quality of life goes up, so too does yours, right? And so, I don't know. I think that it's kind of weird that, you know, Gavin Newsom isn't willing to talk to HASAN Piker, but he was happy and perfectly okay and absolutely glowing about talking to frickin' Charlie fucking Kirk. That's kind of yucky in my personal opinion. Excuse my swearing. But with that going on, then HASAN and Adam Mockler had a debate with Gavin Newsom about Gavin Newsom, excuse me. We won't watch necessarily all of it, but we'll watch some of it. I'm gonna link it. Just give me a second. Boop. That's not what I want to do. This is what I want to do. So we'll watch this in just a second. We're not gonna watch all of it. Oops. No, it's pinned. Good. Okay. The EB Knows pod. Whoopsies.
Electricity, electricity, electricity.
Sorry guys, let me know if it's too loud or too quiet.
You know what's in the air, you know what's in the air. It's possibility, it's possibility, it's possibility, it's possibility.
All right, so Adam Mockler and HASAN did a debate, actually, about this thing that has been going viral recently regarding HASAN amongst liberals, where HASAN said that he would rather
thank
vote for
goodness,
the
this is
party
just
than
a
vote for
highlight.
Gavin Newsom over J.D. Vance. So he said that to Jennifer Welch.
I
on the
haven't
I've
seen
Had
this
It
yet,
podcast.
so I don't know exactly what is going to be said and if I'll agree with everything, but if I disagree, I'll explain why. Oopsies.
And it's been circulating ever since with a lot of establishment liberal types. They are taking it as an opportunity to dunk on HASAN, saying that he's not on the team, he is, you know, helpful to Republicans, etc. And as I've noted, you saw less of this narrative in
I don't agree with that. I don't think if you're not willing to vote blue no matter who that you're helpful to Republicans. I think that if you're not willing to vote blue no matter who, then you have principles, because blue no matter who can result in Hillary Clinton, who's like, we're going to have the strongest hi Zachary, welcome in. You'll be lurking, no problem. Thank you for coming in. The strongest military force in the world and all this other stuff. And if you don't agree with that because you'd rather have, you know, the current levels of military that you have, but also free healthcare, or even reduce the military that you have, because you can tell that it's kind of like overkill and a little excessive and unnecessarily so, that it is impeding the public's ability to get other, you know, what should be human rights, like healthcare, publicly funded healthcare. It should be a thing right now. You shouldn't have to worry about that. So
immediately after the victory, because it rang very hollow. But now that there's some momentum picking up towards the next elections, and it is now the responsibility of Democrats to figure out where they're going to go politically and what message they are going to start putting out to the public. And so there has to be this apparatus of people that are pushing back against messages like this. And so the thing about what HASAN said is that it's very potent. It's a very potent message to say, honestly, if they went with Gavin Newsom, it's pointless at that point. There's no difference, whatever exactly he said. And so Mockler is really trying to nail him in this debate on the idea that there is a distinction between Democrats and Republicans, and that distinction is meaningful. So that's his angle in this debate. And other than that, they mostly agree. They agree on most criticisms of Democrats. They agree on what Democrats should do going forward. But the case that Mockler's trying to make is that by downplaying the difference between Democrats and Republicans and claiming that it's marginal, he contributes to voter apathy, and that's why he is so demonized by people on the liberal side. And then HASAN makes his point in defense. So here's that real quick, and then I'll get into what I think of all this and who won this debate.
I guess I want to ask you, do you think it would be meaningfully easier to build this working class socialist-based movement in a liberal society or an illiberal society?
Oh, historically speaking, most likely an illiberal society. At least historically speaking, socialist and communist movements have unfortunately only been successful when material conditions have worsened. I don't want that to happen though, because I don't want to live through that, and I don't think that is like an appropriate thing to move towards. I don't think that that's good for people. I think it's very violent and very deadly. I don't want the material conditions to deteriorate. But if you're asking me, like, honestly, from a historical perspective, no,
I'm basically asking. I'm basically just asking if we get to a 2028, and like, I guess we can get into the hypothetical of Newsom versus Vance, but it's not even about that. They're kind of just stand-ins. I don't even want to.
Before we even get that far ahead, aside from the fact that Gavin Newsom hasn't even announced whether or not he is running for president in 2028, I don't even know if you guys are going to have elections in 2028. I'm pretty sure you guys just have a dictator, and you guys are going to be slow to catch up to that fact, and it'll be like a hard hitting in the face for everybody who's still in denial when it comes to 2028. It's still early, so, you know, We always complain about like you know, the Democratic Party waiting until like the last minute to start campaigning because they have this stupid expectation of, you know, people are just going to vote blue no matter who, and they're not paying attention to people like HASAN Piker who speak for more people than they might realize, who are tired of doing that because it has not, you know, the lesser evil voting has not resulted in lesser evil, it's resulted in more, unfortunately, as we're seeing in with the Trump administration and everything that's going on there. And so this whole expectation from the Democratic Party is a misguided one, and it's going to cost them dearly if they think that people are just going to vote blue because red has been so atrocious. Like, that's not necessarily the case. You still have to earn people's vote. You still have to make sure that you are providing them with something rather than just being slightly better than the other guy over there, because that doesn't necessarily mean all that much at the end of the day.
Concede who our nominee is going to be 2 years ahead, but I think there would be a meaningful difference in building a, you know, pro-labor movement under a JD Vance presidency, which would be much harder, versus a Gavin Newsom presidency.
But the reality of the matter is, if you're asking me sincerely, like, do you think that Gavin Newsom is going to be better than JD Vance? Of course. I mean, this is not something like Kamala Harris is objectively going to be better than Donald Trump. The miscommunication around this comes in large part due to me openly saying, like, it's out of my hands at that point, because that was the second part that I mentioned. It's openly out of my hands at that point, and there's no way for me to overcome the way that the party is communicating what they want to do, and the fact that a lot of people hear that and immediately go, oh, this guy, he wants the Republicans to win. I don't.
Can you see how people are bothered when you then go on the stream, and I'm quoting you verbatim, you said Democrats have written you out of existence, Democrats don't give a fuck about you, and then you said later on, the marginalized identities have been left behind by the Democratic Party. You're kind of drawing a false equivalency, and then that brings me back to the Jennifer Welch clip. I'm trying to give you the strongest liberal argument here as to why people are mad. It's not
and by the way, I've heard this argument. I used to make this argument myself.
Yeah,
like,
but you said at that point it doesn't even matter, and that kind of feeds into the broader apathy that you seem to be pushing towards. So there's a meaningful difference between Democrats and Republicans on trans issues, right? If you grew up in a Democrat or a Republican state, there's a meaningful difference between your quality of life. Can you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. What I want the Democrats to do is to, one, not compromise at all when it comes to putting forth a counter-messaging operation to go back and fight back against the Republican Party when it comes to trans issues. My criticisms of the Democratic Party revolve around their closeness to Republicans, or their endless interest in conceding to Republicans on certain issues. Because that concession doesn't actually end up causing them to win elections. The only thing it actually ends up doing is those concessions actually normalize some of the Republican agenda items in the eyes of the base of the Democratic Party.
Your strongest argument as to why Democrats are throwing them under the bus are some polls that you see on Twitter, not from Democratic Party leaders, but from like Lakshaya Jain or whatever. Some people after the 2024 election going on TV and saying something to the effect of, oh, we lost because of trans people. That's obviously bullshit. Get those people out of here. And then Gavin Newsom on Charlie Kirk's podcast. That's your evidence that the Democratic Party is throwing marginalized people or leaving marginalized people behind. I don't see it. Okay. And then like when you get confronted on it, or when someone asks you about it, you're like, well, it's just hyperbole. It's like, no, like we shouldn't hyperbolize about trans people, how one party treats trans people versus another, when there's a meaningful difference. A lot of the criticism I saw on Twitter goes back to the conversation that I was kind of trying to, like, not pin you down, but I was kind of trying to return to it over and over, is the way that you word these things on your stream. I genuinely think liberals take problem with that.
The plurality doesn't vote, and therefore the plurality is apathetic, right? My audience, as I've demonstrated already, is not apathetic, and they are voting for the Democratic Party when push comes to shove.
I think the plurality would be less apathetic if we could illustrate more. I think the plurality is apathetic because people say there's a marginal difference between the parties.
Okay.
If we could illustrate
this is a good point. This is a good point. So you think it's people like myself and others that are creating this apathy, and not the multi-billion-dollar messaging infrastructure of the Democratic Party that is making it seem as though the differences are either completely irrelevant for them or inconsequential?
No, I think it'd be both. It could be both and.
And I try to communicate that to the Democrats to the best of my ability. If they don't want to fucking listen, it's out of my hands. And that goes back to the same point. I want to have a conversation with Gavin Newsom. I want to communicate to Gavin Newsom what these spectacular failures look like. But if he's too busy yucking it up with fucking Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro, talking about how his son is a major Charlie Kirk fan, talking to Ben Shapiro and apologizing to Ben Shapiro on Israel not being a genocide, or apologizing to Ben Shapiro about what his like social media team said about ICE.
Gavin Newsom's
I think
podcast strategy.
Mockler did a pretty good job in this argument, except for the fact that he has less of
I personally
a
disagree,
vision
but
in terms of what
that's
he is
just
encouraging
me.
Democrats to do, what politics should look like. So I think the place that he has HASAN is that HASAN does exaggerate a lot, and he tends to word things in a way that is, as I put it, kind of designed to get him in trouble. I don't necessarily think he does it on purpose, but I think as a combination of the fact that he talks on stream a lot, and that streaming favors saying things that are a little bit boisterous, exaggerative, being entertaining.
That's the end of this.
The fact that he
I am
is actually
starving.
trying to push hard against the Democratic Party, whereas someone like Mockler.
I pinned this video. Thank you so much. I know I said that we would do gaming. Let's see. Just give me a second. You want to switch to gaming? We can do gaming. Unpin this message. There we go. Oh. What game was it that the last campfire? Last. Yeah. There we go. Pause campfire. Let's see. Oopsies. Let's see if this will work. Anyways. Sorry guys, just a sec. Not peak, the last campfire. We'll play for about half hour. They're gonna show up? Yay! We got it. Okay. Alright. Let's play this one. This is supposed to be a cute little puzzle game, so... I played a little bit of it before, so... Sorry, you're gonna have to play with me if you haven't caught it before. Okay, I don't know how to do this puzzle. I get stuck here. And I don't know what to do.
Come so very far.
Because I can't... I don't know if I can walk across here or not. Oh, I can, but I can't get up here. So then I don't know what to do. Because I can't go up any of these places. See, I need your guys' help. We'll see how far we can get. Okay, can I get down? Can I get up half a thing? No, I can't get in there. Okay, what about this one? Can it come up the stairs? It can't come up the stairs. Okay. Okay, I can do this. I know this one. But then... Am I able to get it up higher, maybe? Let's see. Can I get it up here? No, because it's too tall. Right? And now it's too tall. I feel like we're missing a block or two or something. Something has to be missing because we need... Yeah, that's cool. Thank you. Doing this. Okay, that does nothing. But then we do this. But then... Oops. I can't climb up anywhere, that's the problem. Like... I can't do anything, really. Like, cool. However, I'm stuck up here. I can't climb on anything. I don't know how to solve this one. I have to exit this game. Oopsies. Do you roll it back to go across, right? I was here. Roller. Welcome, welcome in. I have no idea. What do you mean, TD? Show me. Which part? Okay. Just a second. You mean this one? Which one? The only one that I could move to get up would be this one. And even then, it's tricky bazooky. It might be stuck. I can get it to come here. But, like, that's it. This one... Right, like it won't go up any higher. Even if I get this here, put this one on here, and then do this. Stay up. Or stay on here. Oh, I see. I'm an idiot. I get it. Whoopsies. I've been like, I'm stuck. Thank you, Waxy. No problem. My pleasure. What have we been up to? Tiny rogues. What's that one about?
They felt the air beneath them, the distance ever widening.
Okay. Okay. However, now I need this one up here. But I can't get it up. Because you can only get one brick up. Is there another brick somewhere that I'm missing? Am I just blind to it? Now what? The most I can do is get it up here. Like, we made progress, but... Help me, chat! Help me! I might rage quit. Okay. What if I do... this? No. See, I can't get up any higher. I can only go lower. Oh wait, I get it. Never mind, I'm an idiot. I figured it out now, chat. I've got it. I am just daft. Yay! Okay, let's go. We're good to go. I've got it now. Did you guys figure it out before I did? Oops.
It was such a long way down.
That was embarrassingly slow. Okay, so we just rescued an ember. Yay! I think we can move on to the next section, which is the more challenging section. We'll see. We'll see.
A resolve stirred within the stranger. Just a few more steps. It can't be much further.
Yay! Okay, now we need to find the frickin' fire. No, we need to find something else. We need to find the bird, I think. The bird with the soup. Down this way? Nope. Alright, let's see. We already did this one. Yes. I'm pretty sure we've done all of these secrets. But it's back this way, I'm pretty sure. And then we should be done in this section. Here we go.
Back so soon?
Give Lotus.
I can't believe... Where did you... I've never cooked with lotus seeds before. Ember felt happy seeing the cook suddenly so full of purpose. What a lovely surprise! What a lovely surprise! Please try some. It's not much, but there's plenty to go around. Help yourself.
Yay, we got food.
Be well, little one, and do remember me if you are ever hungry.
Okay, let's go. Now we can feed the pig, and then we can move forward. I'm pretty sure that's the last of the tasks in this section. Oh. Uh-oh. Oh, there it is. Yay!
The pig was joyous. My insides feel as refreshed as my... I did not dream such food was... We will plant a garden of treats. We will grow compliments to the chef.
Okay. Oh, we're missing something. I forgot to go back. There we go. We have a secret that I forgot to get to. Come on, let's go, little guy. Can we pull this one? No, we already did it. Oh, shit. Whatever. Come on! Why will you not? Oh, you're supposed to go down, not up. Whoopsies. Well, that's annoying. There we go. Alright, let's see what's in here. Another puzzle? Oh, yep. Okay. What the? How on earth are we only supposed to jump on the turtles? Oh, what? Ah, dang it. Okay, let's see. What the hell? That was the only way. Are we only supposed to jump on turtles? I don't understand. Is it all luck? Oh, okay. Maybe it's preset. How? That's literally made impossible. Literally impossible. Maybe. I don't know. Let's see. No, that's not the one I wanted to hop on. Dang it, it's going too fast. This way, this way, this way, this way, this way. No, this way. No, that's not what I meant to do. Oh. This way, this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. No, okay. I don't know, maybe you can only jump on each one once? This way, this way. No, I didn't mean to jump there. I didn't press that way. Okay, I'm gonna rage quit soon. This way, this way, this way, this way, this way. Wait, okay. This is getting frustrating. Okay, last attempt. This way, this way. This way, this way, this way, this way. No, okay. I'm done. That's it. Thank you so much, everybody. That was fun. That's frustrating. I'll try to figure it out. Okay, let's see. Yeah. Right. Let's go here. Let's check. I don't know why it's blurring. Every time I look away and it can't see my eyes, it's just like, let's blur it. And it's just like, oh, thank you. That's so helpful. All right, let's see. Who exactly are we going to raid? Come on, there we go. Whoopsies. Let's do Spook Plays Games. Or Sir Dunk the Tall. Great. Let's see, did I do it right? Invalid username. Oopsies. What is it? Sir. S-E-R. Oops. There we go. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. My name is Wax Philosophical. I like to wax philosophical, and I will see you next time I stream. But I hope everybody has a good weekend, and I'll see you guys all later. Okay? Bye-bye, 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 bye-bye. There we go. Okay, bye, guys. Have a good one.